fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds. We're here talking about fish scents, things to supercharge your lures to catch more fish. And these, I'm holding in my hand, depending on if you're watching or listening, these are the two different scents that we have in our store that we both like. And we do believe one is better than the other. They both have pros and cons. We're going to talk about that today. And I'm talking about Dr. Juice. This is the Saltwater Slam. This is only at Salt Strong or fishstrong.com, only for Salt Strong members. And then we have Procure, which obviously comes in a lot of different packages, sizes, and different, what we got, shrimp, they have crab, they have mullet, they have all kinds of different little things that they break up and crunch up and put into some little super gel. And both of these work. That's the great news. We're not trying to poo-poo on either one, but just based on the last 5-6 months and testing side by side, because once again, we sell both of these. You should probably buy both and try it out yourself if you don't believe us. But we have found that one is outperforming the other for saltwater inshore fish, redfish, speckled trout, snook, flounder, even black drum and sheepshead, etc. So we got Justin here, and Justin's background. Why don't you tell everyone your background, Mr. Smarty Pants?
My background is in fisheries and aquatic science. So I worked with a lot of fish, stingray, sharks, and a lot of game fish, actually. I've worked with tarpon, redfish, snook in captivity for 5 years. So I get to watch their behavior and can mimic that out in the wild. It's pretty cool.
If you've ever been to SeaWorld, you've pretty much seen Justin's work. So I'll just leave it at that. And Gaylord Palms in Orlando. Pretty smart dude and loves this stuff. And so we're talking about pheromones and all this stuff that we're getting into, and just like, oh yeah, I know, of course I know what that is. This is my wheelhouse. Then we got Luke, who's just a great fisherman and is very probably one of the most skeptical guys, right? Because that's also part of the problem is, all right, do I really need fish scent? Because we've all caught a ton of fish without this stuff, right? And there's certain days where you can throw a Lego out there and a treble hook and you're going to catch something where just the fish are hitting anything that goes in front of their face. But this is where different scents like this really come into play. It's a supercharge. It's just it's giving you one more chance. I mean, kind of like that, mono versus floor we've talked about, and some of the stuff might be in our head. I don't know. But if the money's on the line, or if I have to get a strike and I want every possible advantage, I'm going to use scent. And there's guys like Dr. Juice that we'll have on the podcast here pretty soon. And there's actually this real guy who kind of looks a little bit like Luke with a cool pimp looking hat on.
Must be a real smart guy.
Yeah, real smart guy. We'll have him on, and he studied this stuff. This company's been around for 30 years or so, I believe. So it's not like something new they just created. And this is what he does. And I listened to him on another podcast, and it was fascinating. Very, very fascinating. So I want to start off first by kind of comparing the two, because we launched this and it sold like crazy. It sold out every time we've brought these things in. And one of the first things we heard from people is, yeah, I don't see it sticking like this, because if you guys have used Procure, it's a gel, and sometimes it's like a bright pink. It's some different colors, but it's very visible. It's gel. And so if you put it on your lure, you're going to see it, right? And of course it wears off as you cast it, but you see it right when you put it on, where this is more of a liquid based scent. And so
oil based though.
We're going to talk all about that in just a second. But meaning it's like you putting water on it, for instance. It looks more like a liquid. It rubs off, or it looks like it's rubbing off. But his point in the podcast, Dr. Juice, he was saying, listen, dogs smell better than humans, right? And some people have said anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 times better, depending on the dog and depending on the average human. It's like fish smell better than dogs. So whatever that math is, we're talking about 10 plus thousand times better than a human scent. And he's like, I promise you, if you can still smell this on your lure 30 minutes later, the fish can definitely smell it. And I've had an episode I know a few of our members have had episodes where I had a slam shady. I'm using Dr. Juice and catch a few fish on it. It gets beat up. It just happens, right? And I put it in my pocket of my Columbia pants in the lower pocket where I kind of keep some of my trash and extra line and stuff I'm throwing away. Completely forgot about it. I wash it. It sits in my dirty hamper for 3-4 days. I end up washing it with all my other stuff, and it almost ruined all of my clothes in there. The entire thing smelled like Dr. Juice. I mean, that's how powerful this stuff is many days later, even going through a full wash cycle. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to see if I can share the screen and bring up the page, and we can kind of talk through. There we go. Can you guys hopefully see this? You see this? Better Fishing Through Science. This is their page. And we're going to talk a little bit about why we like Dr. Juice. And Luke hit it right on the head. Dr. Juice is, I believe, one of the only ones that we found that is both oil and water-based, mostly oil. And if you guys have ever done any painting, like if you're, painting, let's just say kitchen cabinets, which my wife and I did recently and about killed each other over it, I would highly recommend just hiring someone to paint your own cabinets when you have 68 of them. But we did it. And guess what? You don't use water-based paint like a kid would, right? Because why? If water gets sprayed up there, or if you're moving your juice that had a little bit of excess water on the top, it's going to ruin the paint. The paint will start running. Water-based paint runs when it gets touched by water. Oil-based, you could sit there and spray a hose on that thing and it ain't moving, and it's on there pretty much permanently. I mean, that's just kind of a good analogy to understand the oil-based versus water-based, whereas this stuff, like the Procure and a lot of this other gel stuff, is water-based. I mean, it's not lasting as long. It actually comes off when it hits the water, whereas the oil-based stuff is sticking on there a whole lot longer.
And that's why they made it into a gel, just so that it doesn't wash right off. But what was most shocking to me, I've done some tests on the fish on the Dr. Juice versus the Procure, and so I'd have the same lure, right, the same rod, same everything, and the only difference was the scent. And so if I was meticulous on only touching the Procure lure with one hand and only touching the Dr. Juice lure with the other hand. And like literally a day and a half later, the Dr. Juice hand still smelled like I would not wash off, and the Procure would smell normal like the next night. So it was really interesting to see the power of it. Although I couldn't see it, obviously, but man, that thing was still on there, and it was really on there until you get something like, if you get on your boat, that's been a con. But all you do is get Dawn, like get some dishwasher detergent, get something that's designed to break up oil, and it comes right off. So that was that's the good thing about it, is that it sticks, and the other good thing is that if you do get it on somewhere, just use something that's not water, and it'll come right off.
Yep. So from the site here, Dr. Juice was started over 30 years ago in Duluth, Minnesota, by anthropologist and psychiatrist Dr. Gregory Bembenek. His research from the tropical jungles of South America to the bamboo forests of China have brought to you ancient fishing formulas from around the world. It's a fascinating story. Once again, we will have him on the podcast to talk about this, but it's powerful magic backed by real science. And we're going to go through each of these with our fish expert here, Justin. So first and foremost, we got sex pheromones. That is something unique that I don't think any other ones. And they're not like super secret about this. It even says how they make it with, let's just take Procure or any of the other ones that are kind of popular. Like with this one is shrimp. They do take real shrimp, which is cool, right? They're taking whatever they say is in there. They're taking that real, and I don't know how much of it and how much percentage wise, but they're taking that real bait and they're meshing it up and crunching it up and putting it into some type of more of a water-based gel form. So it's got the real stuff in there, and they're really just mashing it up. Where Dr. Juice did the same stuff. They're taking the same type of things, if it's, mullet or shrimp and crab, et cetera, but they're adding these pheromones to it. And that's where this thing gets really, really interesting. So Justin, what is a sex pheromone?
Well, I mean, I'm reading straight off the site, but I would imagine a sex pheromone would elicit a response from a predator for some kind of an aggressive response. So they're writing territorial, spawning related. Fish are triggered. Fish really rely on a couple things, right? They're relying on structure. they're relying on food, and the other amount of effort that they're spending is going to be on reproduction or staying alive. So really 4 things. So when they're feeding or when they're trying to spawn, those are really like one of their core focuses of what these animals are trying to do in their entire life cycle. And it's pretty much like someone setting a Barry Manilow song in the background, and he just gets everybody really excited. So I view sex pheromones as something that the animal can pick up on and will elicit an aggressive response, whether it's aggression for hunger, whether it's aggression for territory. I'm not entirely sure, but that's something that I think that's specifically what that's for.
In that one podcast I listened to with him, and like I said, we'll have the doctor on to talk about it. I mean, they were going and getting, the eggs from, the females in many cases and extracting some stuff out of there. And it's pretty scientific. It's not just, hey, we're mashing up something and putting it in. It's pretty wild. So yeah, we're doing a very, very basic 30,000 foot view, because a lot of people had not seen this on their site. So number 2 is fear pheromones, or pheromones if you're from France. Do you want me to just read this, Justin, or you know what fear pheromones
are? I mean, I kind of want to scroll down and take a look at the rest of the site, because there's one thing in particular. They don't really make mention of it in any of these 3 points, but the terminology of the words cheromones or chiromones and the word allomones, and they're different. So look at it as this. I made a video talking about it because I was impressed with Dr. Juice when I got into a situation where I was trying to sight fish, trout that were in the mid 20-inch range, like 24, 25 inches over crystal clear water and sand with no structure. So like the spookiest fish, that and snook in those type of scenario are really, really spooky. And in general, don't want to eat anything, especially at 11:30 in the morning when the sun's high. And I was using this and I was getting fish, and I thought it was interesting. So I did some research on my own to better understand what they're putting into this compound. And I came across cheromones and allomones, and I had to try to understand what that means. And I gave like a metaphor. So mosquitoes, okay? Mosquitoes pick up on their prey source or their host by carbon dioxide. So when you're at the boat ramp and you're breathing and you're exhaling carbon dioxide, that's the trigger for the mosquitoes to come and find you and attack. So that's a cheromone, where something is giving off a scent or giving off a signal, and it's advantageous to another animal, kind of like a parasite and like a parasitic relationship, so to speak. An allomone would be more beneficial to, let's say, a mullet. If a mullet were to give off a scent that would hide it from all predators, that would be an allomone. Cheromones are kind of like, a pinfish is scared in the grass and it pees its pants, and then all the trout know where it is. Like that. I'm trying to like give a metaphor to where it makes sense, but that's basically what a cheromone is. And I think what a fear pheromone is it's this trigger that, it's like someone just, runs a dinner bell and they know immediately like something's up, there's something going on. And these animals have just this innate sense of trying to hone in on wherever the source of where that's coming from.
If peeing your pants is cool, ooh, consider me Miles Davis. Name that movie. Who can name that movie?
Oh man,
yeah, a great one. All right, so we went from keratones, and on the back of the box, yeah, it is interesting. It's not here on this page. Maybe it's on the actual Saltwater Slam page, but it does talk about cheromones on the back of the actual Dr. Juice box, and then special amino acids and fish extracts, which is similar to what they're having here is the bait extract. So we got the fear, and then the schooling, which is another one, and these are pheromones released by bait fish to aid in staying together during times of low light or areas of dark water. As bait fish get to the edge of the school, the concentration of schooling pheromone lowers, and this triggers the fish to swim back to the area of higher concentration in the middle. This can also help predatory fish key in on the school. And all of these pheromones together can trigger frantic behavior and even the most lethargic of game fish. And I will just say it works. Like I said, Luke has been skeptical. I think the video's out there somewhere. I know we're about to post it and take it live, kind of the full one of Luke on the dock. Luke, talk through what happened there. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this was when I was starting to use the scent, and I was, we just recently got some power prawn lures, and which are really good looking shrimp lures. And I was on a dock at night, and there's snook, and there's also redfish in there, and they were pretty fired up. So this is the perfect opportunity to show that our shrimp lure works good for night fishing under dock lights, and they were actually eating shrimp. And so I was just me, so I had the phone in one hand, the rod in the other. And I was trying to pick out a nice fish to just like cane pull it, where I just literally would just slowly drop it in the water and start moving it with the current. And I was expecting just to get smacked right as I did that. And so I set it in the water, and immediately a redfish and a snook come right up to it. I was just like, we're getting ready for a big battle. And they got right up to it. They nosed it right behind it, and then they bolted. They smelt it. They did whatever it smelled like was not attractive to them, and they bolted. And so I was totally shocked. I was dejected, and I was only focused on just on the power prawn. And so then I was like, wait a second, we just gotten this shrimp, not the shrimp scent, the slam scent, and it was the very first bottle, like the test bottle they sent to us. And I was like, let me just go ahead and just see if I'll put this on and see if it makes a difference. So I put a couple drops on. And just kind of lathered it, or I just get a thin layer of that oil on the outside of the lure and put it in there, and immediately got hammered. And so I caught a snook, released it, and again happened 3 more times, and the third one broke me off, and that was my last of the shrimp lures. But it went from just totally getting denied to getting smacked, just one after the other. And I've had multiple, and I've done. That's not a very scientific approach, right? Like it could have been timing. But I've had other situations where I'm doing the one rod, same lure, same everything. The only difference is the scent, and doing 3 casts with one, 3 casts with the other, and just do that for hours of fishing. And the Dr. Juice has been winning every time. And it's the only scent so far that I've seen that has a noticeable impact. So I went from a total skeptic to now I put on everything. I can put on my topwater plugs now.
And when you see this video, it's not timing, because it was all there at the same time, everything's the same. It wasn't like you went back the next night, and it was all right there in the exact same time frame. And it's just like this thing says it, because the very beginning, you'll see they kind of nose it, and something was off, and they kind of turn around and nothing was hit it. And Luke's just kind of sitting there cane pulling it, and they would kind of get close to it, and they'd just kind of move around it. We've all seen that happen before. But as soon as you put that on there, there was no even nosing it. It was like it caused a feeding frenzy, right? I mean, they were literally fighting over it. It was just like that. It was unexplainable. And now we've had, black drum, sheep's head. We were catching like really nice keeper sheep's head using fake shrimp, which we always thought was impossible to catch sheep's head like on a power prawn. And the sheep's head, we're destroying it when we're putting that Dr. Juice on there. There is something wild, and it literally like got these fish fired up. And we think that one I just caught, Luke, last week that you had for dinner, it kept getting hit. And I was like, man, something's fighting over this thing. And all of a sudden, then boom, one of the big sheep's head came in and just wrecked it. And that's when we ended up landing. It's really wild.
Yeah. And even on that same dock doing some daytime fishing, there's a group down there, and a lot of people were using live bait, and I was just using the power prawn with the Dr. Juice on it. And I was catching the most and the biggest fish. And one other person was using lures, wasn't catching much. So I gave him a power prawn and the jig head. So we had the same lure, same jig head. He was a ProCure fan. I was like, you use whatever you want, but I recommend this. And we were both fishing, and I was still catching them. He still hadn't caught any. And so after like 20 minutes, he's like, hey man, can I try out that scent? And so I put a little Dr. Juice on there, and literally in the first like minute and a half, he caught a snook. So like this has been like multiple examples just like that, to the point where I don't know the science behind it. I have no idea how it works.
No, we just told you something about the pheromones and the ketones.
Yeah, that's still all way above my head. All I know is I put it on my lure, and I see some better results. And same thing for triple tail. Like I feel like I've been having some of my best fishing ever. And so far, every time I've gone against either myself or somebody else who was using anything else, it's the scent side is one, the Dr. Juice side is one. So I'm gonna keep testing it, obviously, but so far I'm a true believer, and it's been fun. The only bad thing again is it smells like it's quite pungent. But originally it was bad because I had some, like, you can see some marks on the boat. But then I figured out that the Dawn gets it right off. So like if I do, spill some or whatever, or Otis knocks over some, then like a little bit of Dawn will get it right off.
It's cool. I'll tell you one other really cool trick, and this is a big reason I like it. We did that podcast. It was one of our most downloaded podcasts about, they were called negative scent tracks. And this was the study by Paul Johnson, the scientific angler, probably one of the most famous, books of all time for hardcore fishermen, where this guy studied for decades of, why fish behave a certain ways and what they like and don't like, and these negative smell and positive smell tracks. But the negative smell tracks were things like gasoline, chemicals, DEET, from like mosquito spray. And if that stuff gets on your hands, it could even be just lotion, right? It could be even just a soap that you use. And then immediately you start tying your knots. And he would take, he'd go down there and scuba dive and watch what would happen with two fishermen, same baits, right next, like within a foot of each other, and documented all this stuff. And he realized there were these negative scent tracks that fish would, just like in that Luke video, they would come up and just not like it. And they would go to the next one that didn't have those tracks on it. And tobacco, if you're sitting there smoking and then tying your lines, that actually hurts your chances. And so after that, I was like, man, it'd be kind of cool if I could rub, Procure at the time. This was before we knew about Dr. Juice. And, Procure, at least the stuff I had at the time, was super sticky, is colored. And I'm putting that on my leader line, right? Because that is a lot of issue. It's not just your lure. And you'll see Luke in his videos with Dr. Juice, he actually sprays and rubs it up on the line as well to get rid of any of those negative scent tracks. And if you put Procure on there, not only is it like sticky and gooey, but that stuff, like it almost like dyes your mono and probably fluoro as well. It actually like changes the color of it, which
it has like a UV additive to it, and fish can see that. So like you're drawing attention to the line.
Yes. So that was not a good thing. So that's another reason I love the Dr. Juice, because it is this oil based. It is more resilient. It's going to stick on there longer, and it's completely clear. So you can sit there and rub it all you want, and it's not going to change your leader line at all. And then of course, I don't suggest doing this. Or if you're using Procure, you don't need a lot of this stuff on either one of them. You need enough, but you don't need to like glob it on there and put the entire bottle on. But if you put too much Procure, especially on like a light paddle tail or a light lure, it can actually negatively impact, your action on there. Like if you're putting too much glob, you're adding basically a layer on this lure, depending on where you put it, especially if you put it like on the tail, it can actually hurt your chances of getting a strike just because you got extra crap on there. So if you haven't guessed by now, we're obviously big fans of this. We sell this and we still recommend it. And I recommend you do the test yourself, which is what, we've been challenging everyone, is test this stuff yourself. But we also went to this podcast because some of the first feedback was, man, Dr. Juice stuff works. It's the best stuff I've ever seen, but it doesn't last as long as Procure. And that's only because they were looking at it visually. And that's a big reason we want to do this, is talking about that it is oil and water based for these three reasons. It's more resilient. Oil reacts more naturally than water based, and it requires less application. So this will actually last a whole lot longer.
Yeah, the one important thing that I didn't do, but it makes a really big difference, is to apply the scent, apply this Dr. Juice oil-based scent while the lure is dry, right? Because oil and water don't mix. So if you apply it onto a wet lure, it's obviously not going to stick very well because it'll basically just bounce right off the water. So do it really like as soon as you get on the water before your first cast, put some on there, and it is shocking how long it lasts. It'll absolutely last longer than any gel-based scents, at least that I've ever tried. And again, do the test, like put some on each of your hands, and you will definitely still smell that Dr. Juice after quite a long time.
Yep. And it still does work even if the lure's wet. I even put it on lures that already have scent on there, like our Slam Shaded 2.0. It's already got a little bit of scent built on, and I still load it up on top of that. Definitely get the leader line. That's a big one. I would be getting everything that's going to be close to the fish, just every possible reason that a fish might not hit your lure, try to eliminate it, right? And if you can have a scent that's going to help and supercharge and get fish fired up, I put it on all day long. Like I said, Luke was like, yeah, I'm using it on my top waters. I was like, seriously? And that last time we did it, you can't argue with success. We caught an inshore slam. That was the video we posted, and Dr. Juice was on every one of those topwater casts. So this stuff just flat out works. I'm really pumped to get the actual doctor on here soon. And he personally went down to Texas to test this out, sent us some bottles to test in Florida, why it was in North Carolina. And now obviously we've sold it to members from Texas to Virginia and everywhere in between. And everyone's reporting it's working really, really well. Even like dead sticking it, catching black drum. It's amazing how well this stuff works and how well it stays on any type of soft plastic. But the only downside is it is stanky. I mean, it is really, really stanky. And as Luke said, be very careful when you're spraying it over a boat or over a kayak. Try to do it off to the side, and you'll see as soon as you dip it in the water. I mean, you see the oil come off of it, and you could see what's that it's on there and it's working. Kind of like this picture over here. It's pretty neat. What else, guys? What else are we missing?
I just try it. I mean, I think we covered it all. I just recommend just try it out and test it on whatever other scents you've used, and I believe I'm confident that you'll continue getting it, and because it's been solid. And we even give a money back guarantee where if you try it and you don't think it's awesome, just let us know. We'll refund you too. Where this isn't like a scheme to try to get people's money. This is, hey, this will help you catch more fish, and so just say, hey, just give it a shot.
Yep. And obviously give it a shot a couple times more than once with any of this stuff. Cause it's just like with Procure, if you go out and just have a bad day on blame it on the Procure, like give it a shot. Yeah. Obviously you still need to be in a feeding zone. I think that's the big caveat. Same with any of our stuff, right? I think fishermen way too often put way too much of their success on a lure or a rod or a reel. You still got to be in the 90-10 zone, right? You still got to go find the feeding fish. That's the main reason that we started the Insider Club in the first place. The tackle has really just been all these tackle discounts and now offering all this stuff. It's been an add-on. We had our first, almost 10,000 members without any tackle. It was all about the trends. It was all about on the water fishing reports. It was all about putting you in the feeding zone and helping you go catch inshore slams. And then we added on the tackle afterwards. So tackle is critical. We love tackle, love buying tackle, love selling tackle, but got to know where the feeding fish are first. So we'd love to help out with that. If you're not a member, definitely come join us. And of course, you get 20% off all this stuff, everything over there at fishstrong.com, including all our rods, reels, accessories, all kinds of cool things that we're going to be adding over the next 3 to 4 months, probably 3 to 6 months. I'll say because everything takes so stinking long to get in right now with supply chain and shipping issues, but 20% off at least everything there in the store, and just one more way to justify your Insider Club membership. But the big one is helping you save time, right? The saving money part's awesome. Getting discounts is awesome, but if you're like me, you're busy, you want to maximize your time, you don't want to go out there and scratching your head wondering where the fish are. We want to give you an unfair advantage so that you are armed and dangerous and super confident, laser focused, that you know exactly where to go based on trends that we're sharing every single week, like real time. We're on the water and saying, here's exactly the types of areas and the depths and the tides and the lures and the rigging that you need to have to succeed to catch inshore slams. We're not doing offshore. We're not doing bass fishing. But if you're interested in inshore saltwater fish, redfish, speckled trout, snook, and flounder, mango, snapper, now even cobia and some species here and there, tarpon, then you got to join us. There's nothing out there like it. It's everything that we wish was around when we started getting serious about it. And now it's everything we wish was around as we're doing this full time. And we have a big portion of our members are full-time guides and people that do this for a living that just want to be around like-minded people. And it's a never-ending, ongoing learning sport, as we all know. You never just figure it out one day and say, I don't need any more help. It's never ending, which is exciting, right? It's always about finding new places and finding new trends and catching fish, and sometimes places you never thought possible or places you passed by a million times. So we love it. We're having a blast, and our 25,000 plus members are so amazing. I know a lot of you listen to the podcast as well. So guys, thank you so much. Can't do it without you. And we got some really, really cool things coming here down the pike. So we appreciate it. Justin, Luke, any other farewell speeches from our smartest fisheries management guy in the whole company?
I just say, don't leave anything on the table. Like my trout experience was a really good one using this product. I had used Procure in the same situation 2, 3, 4 times without success. And then I used the Dr. Juice in the same type of scenario. And I had dormant trout attack the lure. And I was impressed. So all it takes is one good time. And now I don't go out on the water without it.
Good stuff. You can find all this at fishstrong.com. Make sure if you're a member to be logged in and get your discounts. And we'll see you guys. Hopefully, if not out in the water, we'll see some pictures of you in the community and give us some feedback. We'd love to know what you're seeing, right? If there's something else out there, let us know about it. We're not, sponsored by any of these two groups. We obviously, put our name on this one because we like it so much, but Dr. Juice isn't paying us. We buy this stuff with our own hard-earned money, just like we do with Procure. So if you have anything else that's working or you think can beat either of these, let us know. We'd love to go test it out ourselves. And we will always report back what we are finding. So that is it. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you on the next episode. Peace.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. To find us on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today. For he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fishing in our soul.